And they then go into society and they spread what they've learned. So when it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this school did not like the way I thought. They started thinking about ways to sabotage me. So it was a mix, and then it was after going to this school that they set me up to go to the psych ward for the first time in about 10 years. 10 years of no psych ward visits, all of a sudden, boom, go to University of Phoenix, bang, back to the psych ward. One could simply say, well, it was the stress of going to college, but no, it wasn't. You know, they had set it up. They had worked with my dad, and also when my uncle died, it was really there was a long-standing disagreement about psychiatry. They were trying to get my cousins to take psych meds. I was speaking out against it, so now the school that was trying to sabotage me had vested interests with mental health, is trying to profit, and also they're left-leaning. They don't like Christians. They like atheists. They like science as a philosophy. All these people had vested interest in getting me on drugs when all of them are wrong and I don't need drugs. I hadn't even been to the psych ward in 10 years. I made the decision, and all you can tell by my grades too. My grades were the best when I wasn't drugged. Whenever I was on medication, it was just dramatic. I think the worst class was my project management class. The worst grade I got, heavily drugged, just fucking out of it. Some of my computer classes, drugged, fucking silly, So there was this vested interest in these groups. My parents trying to get my cousins on psych meds, trying to get me on board instead of being against it. Instead of quote unquote getting in their head, because they lived with me at the time, because my uncle died, they were his kids. Their mother was a drunk at the time. They actually called the cops on her and got her to the psych ward. So they were trying to drug everyone in my family. My dad was, he was at a very low time in his life, and he got older since then, and he's kind of losing his passion. He's kind of getting older, he kind of just like whatever now. So he's just rolling with the state to avoid problems, because he's an old man, he doesn't feel like fighting with the state. But at that time, he was like having his last wind, I guess you could say, when it comes to these matters, when it comes to trying to argue with people and, do that type of thing. So he decided he decided now's the time. And so basically, it was on the first anniversary of my uncle's death in February 2011, February 26th, I believe. I've told the story many times. Make a long story short, I was hungry. I was very angry, stressed out from schoolwork, stressed out from everything. My cousins were a constant reminder. I didn't really mind them living with us, but you got to understand how that factors in. They make noise and whatever, and, I make noise too because I listen to music, to be fair, but it all factors into the stress levels. And I was starving, my older brother had turned off my chicken wings because I went to sleep hungry, because I was kind of hungry and I was, tired, and I decided to take a nap, subconsciously thinking I'm going to wake up in time to go get the chicken wings, or when I wake up the chicken wings might be burnt a little bit, but I can still salvage them. They're not really a threat to burn down the house or something. So then I go down there, right? They're in the oven. They have been turned off. I try to grab one. I mean, it is frozen. It is like frosty. It's like ice on it still, and I'm pissed off. So that sent me into an extreme rage. I'm starving, all the stress in my life, broken heart. My ex-fiance had left for the last time. I was just pissed, fucking enraged. The anniversary of my uncle's death, just mad. So then I started driving down the road, and this is the really term. If I kept driving and if I just stuck it out and just starved, I live like 15, 20 minutes away from the nearest food place. I turned back on the chicken wings. I drove away. Then I came back, and I decided I'm going to eat the cold chicken wings. So I put them on a plate. I started walking up to my room, you know, he decides, he's like, we got to talk right now. We got to talk. He's like insisting that he grabs me, you know, he rips my coat in the ensuing struggle, pushes me through the door. I dropped the chicken wings. So I had a lock on my door that I had to unlock the first one, reach under and unlock the second one. So I had one chicken wings in my hand and I had my keys in the other. And he pushed me through the door. And then my dad heard the struggle. He comes upstairs. Make a long story short, the cops play stupid about the broken chicken wings on the ground, the very obvious evidence that I was minding my own business and my explanation. They take me to the psych ward for the first time in many years because they also had vested interest in taking to the psych ward as many people as they can. And, you know, probably getting kickbacks, I don't know. You know, they definitely have been collaborating with the gang stalkers since then, trying to provoke me to violence to make them look like the good guys when they're dead wrong from the beginning, you know. And there's, of course, they have a long history. When you look at the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, they have a long history of the political abuse of law enforcement, police brutality, and unwarranted shootings, and on and on. You know, some of them will get caught as pedophiles, and there's a long history of corruption. Not to mention the Code of Silence documentary took place in California. So anyway, when you look at the story, it is impossible to think that they're right or that there's anything wrong with me. The timeline says it all, you know. 10 years since the last time I've been to the psych ward, which was over petty shit as well. You know, every time my parents always the one to call the cops, except for one time after I've been sexually assaulted, you know, and I've been set up and all this horrible stuff has happened. And I make a video about how I want to hurt the pigs, you know, which is completely understandable. That's the only time I've ever been to the psych ward. When, you know, I wasn't in my room yelling, venting, starving in the middle of fucking nowhere, you know. It's just like it's like duh, there's nothing wrong with them, you know. Especially when you watch my videos and you see that I've reflected on my behavior and so on and so forth. Anyway, not to mention you see how thoroughly I examine things. It is preposterous to think that there's something wrong with me, you know. So anyway, other than being covertly drugged and gang stalks, which I've proven beyond any doubt in many ways. See the 9 witnesses decide. I have 10 other witnesses other than myself that make it absolutely clear that that's what's going on. So when you consider everything, you know, yes, if it wasn't for the childish traits of the New World Order, if it wasn't for females' bad judgment, the major problems would have never been that problem. Been there, you know. There's this horrible judgment from women. I mean, you know, how can somebody sabotage someone's love life when we all make our choices, right? Unless people are completely traitors, you know. There's no shortage of people who have said that I'm good looking. No shortage at all. But there's an appalling lack of admiration from the potential wives. So when you look at it, like, look, you know, how could this person be shunned in the most populated state? And I've gone over this many, many times. It's bad judgment. I mean, what else could it be? Are women threatened with a gun to their head? You better not date this guy. No, they just have bad judgment. And it makes you wonder, you know. Makes you wonder. So as the best years of my life are finishing, you know, when I finish my top martial arts challenge, you know, I'm planning to either finish it this year at 3 years or get another plaque, you know, after I'm well on my way to 4 years, get another plaque, do it the same way, rub it in. And with all their network and stuff, you know, you really think that with all their network, you know, they can drug me at every fucking grocery store and I catch them doing it. You know, they can fume my car in my room. They can set me up at every business in America. But magically, they can use other martial artists, all the main martial arts places around here to help gang stalk me. But magically, they know someone who can beat me, but magically, they're not going to use them. Of course they would have. If they could have beaten me, they would have beaten me. You know, if there was somebody in this entire country that could beat me, they would have used their resources to find him, and they would have brought him here by now. So perhaps if it wasn't for the gang stalking, I might not have been able to effectively proven my point. To have proven my point. But when you consider the fucking number of people that they have used, when you consider their network, and you consider all these groups, and especially the military and all these people who are trained in hand-to-hand combat, it is insane. It is absolutely absurd to think that there's someone in this country that could beat me that magically was not recruited. They would have paid them. Not just if they could beat me, they would have beat me and got the prize money, and these people would have paid them to try. But obviously, that type of that someone doesn't exist. I'm the best. Even drugged, I'm the best. It's very common sense, very straightforward. So yeah. I'm personally very let down by females, because even though I'm supposed to be this Christian guy who oppresses women, I thought higher of them than they actually were. I thought better of them than they deserve. I thought that, there was a good chance that one day I was going to find a good woman who was going to be with me. Beautiful woman, smart, deserving, worthy. That's one of the main things I was dead wrong about in life, ironically, is that I put faith in women's judgment. Not complete, total faith, but I thought there was probably about an 80% chance that, that I wouldn't waste the best years of my life lonely and miserable as I have. That, women would have good enough judgment to see the good in me, to see what I knew was always there. And, I've been extremely let down by them. And that's part of the reason why I rub in their bad judgment so much, because I know firsthand the consequences of thinking that they are smarter or more intelligent or more insightful or more capable of good judgment than they are. It's cost me the best years of my life. It's cost the world so much with all these abortions, all these hypergamous whores. I'd hate to see the future generations suffer as the past ones have, thinking that women are capable of doing the right thing. I would hate for that to happen. Now, a lot of females don't like to hear it, but, prove me wrong, Tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, show me why I'm wrong. And don't say some stupid shit like, oh, you just haven't found the right one yet. Nonsense. And I'm going to tell you exactly why that's nonsense. I would have found one while waiting for the right one to come along. They would have been dating me all this time. It's just this horrible judgment. It's just insanely horrible. It's just crushing. Penetrates, through the depth of virtue, just destroying everything righteous. Just horrible judgment. And there's nothing they can say for themselves. There isn't a single valid argument they can make without hiding behind the social norms of the oppressor. In fact, I'll pay you $5,000 if you can give me one valid argument in a predominantly Christian society that has nothing to do with Babylonian social norms. The argument that, oh, you're being persecuted doesn't hold weight. Matthew 5, makes that clear. Matthew 10:22 makes that clear. It says you can't, in a predominantly Christian society, the argument can't be, well, they're persecuting to the point where you're living with your parents. Well, that's what a Christian is. And this is a predominantly Christian society. Were they fucking hypocrites? They liars? They're fake Christians? And that speaks well of their judgment? No, that's not a good reason. There is no good reason. There is only their reason, which is conformity and bad judgment. Their desire for social acceptance in a wicked world that murders 100 million innocent people. These are preventable deaths every year. Where psychiatry murders 500,000 people in Western countries alone. Where approximately 1 in 4 foster children are drugged. And they'll come up with some stupid reason. But all of us with any insight at all know better. There's no reason. There's no good reason for them to have such bad judgment or to have shunned me for so long. Let's face it. Let's face it. If we're going to, there's many forms of denial And one of the denial is a feminist denial. This idea that, oh, men are the problem and we need to empower women more. Their goal is to empower the same ignorant philosophies that have led to the persecution of the top martial artist, the complicity of all attractive women in his state, arguably in the country. And it's the centers of these movements. The center of feminism is in the same area that has been shunning me all these years, that have cost me the best years of my life. And you want to go behind that? You want to back that up? You want to push that hella tough? You think I'm going to be the only righteous man that will suffer if feminists have their way? Think about this. Before you think about what it means for me, think about what it means for society. That's what I think. I think, you know what? That's why I talk about the Bible. I'm like, look, what reason do they have? They don't have a single valid reason to have treated me such a way. All my YouTube videos they could have come across, you know? Are attractive women smiling at me at the store or something? Not exactly. Not unless they're working there and it's their job to, you know? Why do they treat me such a way? Why didn't they have a good judgment? Why are they fucking cowards? Why did they give ammo to the enemy? The enemy's like, well, we'll help you with your women problem. You know what they say? They say, we're aware of all your problems. You know, all the problems that they have created for me because of complicit little hussies. We're aware of all your problems and we'll help you out if you sell your soul to the fucking devil. And you do something that's going to eliminate the threat you've created to our demonic agenda, our eugenic agenda, our eugenic fucking order of bootlicking scum. They wouldn't have anything to say in the first. They wouldn't open their devil mouths in the first place if society was doing the right thing. And they certainly wouldn't be able to play the female card if females weren't a bunch of feminist garbage with inferior judgment. Think about it. You gotta realize that I wish it wasn't the case. Do you really think that I would be saying this if it wasn't the case? Think about it. I have a fucking oath. If every dumb fucking bitch magically became smart and started showing me fucking love, which is every bitch basically, you know, what would it mean for me? Well, that would, you know, oh, what could have been? Oh, what could have been? It's too bad that they betrayed God. Because you got to realize, there's potential allies, and then there are dumb bitches with bad judgment who couldn't be allies. They're not potential allies because they don't have the judgment to be potential allies. This is who they are. They're supporters. They're the most passionate supporters of the New World Order. They're going out of their way to, you know, paint their faces and, you know, put makeup on, whatever you want to call it. Go shopping and all this stuff and practice hypergamy. They put such effort into being appealing to inferior men who have chosen to conform. They've taken such great pains to be a fucking traitor. It's horrible. You can say, well, the New World Order targets pretty women first and foremost. It goes back to judgment. You think they haven't targeted me my whole fucking life? The son of two doctors? You think they haven't tried to get me to sell out my entire fucking life? It's not an excuse. Again, in a predominantly Christian society, the devil tempts us all, right? So what kind of inferior form of life believes that the devil is tempting them and then falls into the exact trap that is described over and over again in the Bible? Those worldly harlots. Those fucking hypocrites. No. I couldn't be harsh enough with these traitors. If no one is going to be able to convince them otherwise, then certainly we shouldn't help the New World Order empower them. And certainly we shouldn't allow them to do this and look like some kind of innocent hero. You know, oh, we're trying to, you know, liberate women from oppressors. You are the fucking oppressors. You are the secret weapon of the oppressor. Not so secret when someone has insight. You are the trump card of the rich. Who is it that said, you win the minds of the women and the men will follow? Another way to say that pussy power is going to kill us all. You just don't get it. People just don't get it. Do you really think if I got a bunch of bad bitches and I saw that other righteous men were being shunned, especially if they were good looking and there was no reason in the world for them to be shunned, that I would be silent? I say, you know what? I'm getting pussy. I'm going to leave it alone. You're fucking kidding yourselves. You know all the things I've given up to tell the truth? I would speak on it. I say, look, I might be getting bad bitches, but I see this abhorrent, repugnant trend in society that good men are being shunned for doing the right thing. You better believe I would speak on it. You need to get it out of your head, any feminist, mainstream, social norm, fucking derived bullshit. All those contrary cunts. You need to get their weak arguments out of your head. It doesn't hold weight. They don't want to debate me because they know I'll play them out completely. So something has to be done about the bad judgment of women. You know, first and foremost. It's one of the main things. I don't see this reversing without that. Even the New World Order would be tempted to change. You know, they want to go to the club and have a bunch of bad bitches dying to suck their dick. They don't want fucking the club to be empty full of fat fucking desperate whores. You know? They want the club full of bad bitches and gay guys, you know, for their bisexual, dual gender Baphomet worshipping scoundrel selves. It's a lot easier to take away their respect than their money. Except when women have such bad judgment that they are going to push the New World Order agenda, but they're not going to oppose them. They're going to start crying about the bank, at least phony leftists. Say, oh, the bankers this, the big corporations that, and then they'll do exactly what the big corporations want them to do. To a T. Exactly. What have these leftists done to take away from gold digging? Not a fucking thing. How can you say that, you know, there's the greed. Greed is a problem. Corporate greed. The 1%. And then turn around and encourage women to be hypergamous sluts. How could you possibly even pretend to be against the top 1%? How can you possibly pretend to be against the bankers when you're pushing their philosophies and you're encouraging women to date them, suck their dicks, be their concubines and wives? And don't slut shame, because we want these whores to, you know, be strippers for the New World Order, you know, to be high-end escorts for the bankers. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. Make no mistake, it's never been about equality or addressing economic disparity. It's always been about empowering women, giving them privileges men don't have that will allow them, in the long run and collectively, more power than men have. That's why it's called feminism, not egalitarianism. It's about empowering the woman above the man. And the Eastern Star in them, with their rainbow colors and their inverted pentagram, those satanic hussies, you know what they'll say? They'll say, well, men have ruled so long, we need to balance it out with thousands of years of the rule of women. You people don't get how these people think, man. You never will. Every guy who's not super rich to some degree has suffered because of women. That's why it's disproportionately gays and bisexuals who support feminism. Not too many straight, manly men support feminism. And these feminists are perfectly content with dating bisexual men who are feminist friendly. Some guys are even turning bisexual because they see that. They see that women are much more open to hanging out with bisexual guys, you know, who act effeminate and buy the same makeup and female products, the feminine products that they buy, than they are to dating a manly man. They see a manly man as an oppressor who's trying to marry a woman and make her a housewife / slave in their minds. That's what it is. To make a woman actually take care of the kids instead of go out and use her pussy power at work or something. You know, work and use her pussy power and feel important. People don't get it, man. You don't get the deeper implications of what has been done to me. Do you think their attack on manhood ends with the top martial artist? Oh boy. Women have no respect for manning up. Going against the grain on behalf of God is the highest form of manning up. They have no respect for it. They're conformist scum. They can cry, you know, even if I was mad because I'm not getting any pussy, doesn't change the fact that I'm right. It never will. Let me put things into perspective for you. I've come across many mental health professionals who say that psychiatry leans left. The psychiatrists are disproportionately liberals. And I assure you, that shouldn't surprise anyone who understands the nature of psychiatry. That is akin to saying, well, gays are disproportionately liberals. It's like, well, no fucking shit. And when it comes to liberals, there are several cities that are notoriously democratic. Seattle, for instance. But the one that is the bell that rings the loudest in Satan's little libtard world is San Francisco. Daly City and Berkeley and Santa Cruz and all the other places that aren't too far away also notoriously lean left. San Jose, with its huge immigrant population and its proximity to San Francisco, also leans left, as does Oakland. When one goes to Valley Med, they are almost always shipped north, closer to San Francisco. This is important now, because the liberals in this area, the mental health people, have several conflicts of interest. They have financial interests. They have roles as social controllers for the government. And then they have political allegiances that create conflicts of interest as well. When I go to the psych ward, it is a political dissident who is very cogent, clear, concise, and coherent, who is from the opposite end of the political spectrum in many ways. Not a Republican, but certainly far from a Democrat. One could say by my actions that I am a very devout Christian and extremely politically active. There's a thin line between someone like that and an extremist or a quote-unquote radical. When it comes to being a leftist, few things are more radical than being a psychiatrist, force medicating people based on their beliefs. Now think about this. Psychiatry practices a humanistic philosophy quite often, and I say that with disgust. But more importantly, they practice a philosophy of pseudoscience that they call a philosophy of science. Supposedly religion and religious precepts and principles are not considered when they decide whether or not someone is mentally ill. If someone says that they have powers, superpowers, it is considered a mental illness by default, automatically proving that they have disdain and disgust for religion and religious people. Say, well, you think God has empowered you? You're mentally ill. You think you have divine insight? You're mentally ill. You think you know better than the experts because of your understanding of the spiritual world? You are suffering from a form of schizophrenia, schizoaffective, delusions, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, etc. It is impossible for me to be treated fairly in this mental health system anywhere. But the one place that you would know for sure that I would be treated the most unfairly is in the center, the headquarters of the political opposition, in a pseudoscience that notoriously and incontrovertibly leans left. Think about that. Should it surprise any of you that the oppressors have chosen this particularly pernicious form of political abuse to subject me to as punishment for not conforming and submitting myself, for brainwashing and indoctrination? It is impossible for a rational mind to look at this pseudoscientific nonsense based on false beliefs and despicable precepts. This faction of philosophy that should have been wiped off the face of the earth, that is instead connected with the most profitable sector of society, the pharmaceutical sector. It is impossible for a righteous man to not be disgusted by the process in general, and my story especially. The story of a very tragic form of psychiatric abuse. And I want you to pay close attention as you see them try to play off that there are 9 witnesses and one that I'm having on hold waiting for her permission to post her video. 10 witnesses other than myself, which makes 11. To my psyopics especially, particularly. Watch how they try to play that off. Watch what they do to avoid the irrefutable and unavoidable. Their moral relativism, their philosophy of pseudoscience, their new age garbage, they will stop at nothing to justify. Fabrication and falsification are not out of the realm of possibility when it comes to the minds of psychiatrists and those that collaborate with them. Now ask yourselves, if you were, say, a Republican who was extremely outspoken, with hundreds, if not thousands, of videos on YouTube, and hundreds, if not thousands, of people had expressed their disgust with your views. When cops pull you over, they say, "Ain't you that guy on YouTube who said this and that?" "Oh yeah, man, you're crazy." Trying to play you out. And the same departments that treat you that way take you to the psych ward, where the political opposition is smirking at you. Others have a looks of guilt and sorrow. Others have a sick look of vengeance on their faces. That coupled with them not wanting to be at work in the psych ward in the first place. And then you saw exactly what you expected to unfolding. You're mentally ill. You're crazy. They really want to say, if it was up to me, all of the political opposition would be labeled crazy and drugged and kept from corrupting our world. All you non-Democrats need to be drugged and silenced. You need to fall in line. You better believe that's what they really are saying and what they really want to say, plainly and clearly. You see, feminists and gays and atheists, gang members, and the children of immigrants as part of the staff. And you know it's not a coincidence that there's a bunch of Democrats working for them who are disgusted by you. And they have gossiped, as you would expect, behind your back, in the staff lounge, in the staff area. Oh, he makes videos about do. Do you think in that scenario, or should I say, in my scenario, in my situation, that I could possibly even begin to be treated fairly by those people? So recently, I had a discussion with a person I won't name or describe about stopping my politics and trying to blend into society, or rather, to settle down. Now, for someone like me, in the society that we live in, automatically to settle down means to settle for a female that is beneath you. Because my arguments were directed at the order of society, the social controllers, the social engineers, etc., they are inclined to make my position to demote me. Automatically they try with all of us to kind of direct where we go, kind of keep us down, keep us on a path they want us to be on. And so they're going to take away from that to say, hey, you can't spend all these years speaking out about us, or quote unquote talking all that shit, without taking a serious loss when it comes to your place in society, to be reduced, demoted. So settling down, before I even get into anything, is unappealing. But when you think about what it consists of settling for a female. No matter how you slice it, they're going to go out of their way to make sure that if I settle down long term with somebody, it's going to be the type of person that takes away from my potential respect, if you will. There's going to be no trophy wife, No dime pieces on the, on the menu, right? It's going to be settling down with a female that I settle for in a society whose social order I find unsettling. And the way that it works is unsettling as well. Settling for a pathetic place in society. And make no mistake, they will say things like, well, you have to earn that place. It's completely stupid. It's just retarded. Anyone who knows anything about this, they know better. There is no earning a place in society. It's being allowed. And when people have a grudge against you already. I mean, before all this stuff took place, there was no way I was going to go along to get along. After all this stuff took place, it is so far out of the question. You're more likely to see the farthest star from the planet Earth with your naked eye than to comprehend how far out of the question, than to see how far out of the question settling down or ceasing to resist is. In a society that admits that cyberbullying exists, there's even a cyberbullying act. And when you look at what it consists of, it's almost identical psychologically, socially, with gang stalking. All gang stalking is the logical next step. To say that cyberbullying exists and gang stalking doesn't is like saying guys slap their wives, but they don't punch them. Men sexually assault women, they rub on them, they fondle women, they have wanted advances, but they don't rape them. People pistol whip people, but they don't shoot them. It's so, that is like saying that cyberbullying exists, but gang stalking doesn't. It's the logical next step that has tons of evidence for its existence. Okay, what is cyberbullying? It's a social group or groups of people that have targeted somebody because they're doing things in a way that upsets them. Whether it's a petty reason, whether it's an understandable reason, that's pretty much irrelevant. And that's even what the police officer cited. He said, we're aware of gang stalking because of cyberbullying. Because the two are very closely connected. And it is absurd to pretend that somebody is delusional for them to describe the logical next step. People get kicks out of bullying other people in groups. And the more toys and technology they have at their disposal, logically, the more kicks they'll get out of it. To say that the people with access to government technology don't cyberbully or don't bully anyone is like saying, well, cops never commit any crimes. Cops have never been caught molesting children. Actually, they have. They've never been caught raping women. Actually, they have. They've never killed anybody, illegally. Actually, they have. So now that we've established that cyberbullying and group bullying exists, and that law enforcement and the military are not above doing crimes, let's think about this from another perspective, shall we? With cyberbullying, it tends to be certain groups of people that are prosecutable. What is the logical next step? Do criminals just give up when legislation is passed to curb or limit their criminal activity? No. They think about plausible deniability. Well, how do you do that? Well, simply you increase the size of the group. Whether it's a Democratic Party in one state collaborating with a Democratic Party in another, or a military base collaborating with other military bases, or psychological operations units collaborating with others, they simply increase the group. So then one person leaving a comment, followed by hundreds of others over a long period of time, cannot be prosecuted as cyberbullying because there is not a consistent pattern with a small group of people. This is the logical and unavoidable, the inevitable next step. Say it with me. The inevitable next step. The expected next step. The unavoidable. The criminally understandable. The anticipated next step. The logical next step. And you see how low mental health has sank to pretend that this is delusional. That's the kind of society that we live in. That is what defines mental health. People with an agenda that represent a philosophy. Remember, psychology was a branch of philosophy, and psychiatry sprung up from psychology. You know, kind of like the logical next step. First, they hit it with a philosophy, and then say, we're going to define the world in terms of this philosophy and call it a science, and we'll call it psychology. That was the inevitable next step when the people in charge take on a philosophy. They make it a science. For it to become a science in the first place implies, it screams that the people in charge have endorsed it. For it to become practiced consistently, for it to become fucking ubiquitous, screams that the people in charge have endorsed it, financed it, and maneuvered carefully in order to institute it in institutions. And of course, when you do your research, you figure out that alchemy and chemistry and pharmacology and all this stuff is absolutely connected to masonry. And of course, Masons, came up with most of this stuff. And they're a lot of the presidents of this country and influential people and Benjamin Franklin and blah, 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 blah. There's a thin line between American philosophy and American values. The two are damn near interchangeable. So when you look at this and you trace it backwards, you say, look, psychiatry is a symptom. It is a product of a philosophy. So therefore, if psychiatry is wrong, then the philosophy is wrong. You know it by its fruit. If the apples consistently come out rotten or poisoned, then the tree has something wrong with it. If there hasn't been any outside interference, if you brush up on a plant and you get poison oak, you say, is it just the poison oak, or is it just the grease, or was it the plant that produced the grease? The grease didn't fall down from the sky. It's the same with psychiatry. Psychiatry proves definitively that the philosophies of a nation are corrupt and incorrect. Definitively. Psychiatry definitively shows that the philosophy of science, as it is called, is incorrect. That the institutions and groups that combine philosophy and science are incorrect. And gang stalking, which is a product of the greater American philosophies and American values of conformity, of social acceptance, of social control. America's values and applications are incorrect. That's why we have applied sciences, applied pseudosciences, mental health, quote unquote, sciences. When the root is incorrect, it's wrong. The foundation is wrong. Everything suffers. So we see a 360-degree failure here. We see that the philosophy that psychology was derived from was incorrect. Psychology, where psychiatry was derived from, is incorrect. The imperfect pharmacological sciences and chemical sciences that psychiatric drugs were derived from were imperfect, thus incorrect. It's like saying, well, 1 + 2 = 3. You know, well, we just need to tweak it. What if you don't know how to tweak it? It's incorrect. Even if you have an idea how to tweak it in the long term, so the equation adds up. It is still incorrect as it is. So then when it comes down to law enforcement or mental health enforcement, it becomes incorrect to enforce an incorrect science in a nation where you're talking about free will. You have free will and freedom to do this and that, but the moment we don't like what you're doing, we're going to use an incorrect science or pseudoscience based on an incorrect philosophy with a bunch of cocky, incorrect motherfuckers who don't like you on you. And therefore, everyone who says, well, that's what we should do, everyone who conforms to that social norm, that's okay, and takes it one step further to the point where they're gang stalking people for being out of the ordinary, based on their philosophy, which is incorrect, and everything that has proceeded from the abomination that was the origin, the philosophical origin of this detestable pseudoscience.